Welcome to the Aging Boomers. I'm your host, Frank Sampson, and of course on this show we discuss so many of the issues facing boomers, their parents, and of course what we know is an aging population. And before I introduce our guest today, I want to let everybody know that today's show is sponsored by Senior Care Authority, a professional senior placement and elder care management organization that has a national network of advisors to help in determining the right path for seniors and receiving proper care and supervision. So whether it's in-home care, assisted living, residential, or memory care, get the necessary advice from a senior care advisor in your area by calling Senior Care Authority at 888-809-1231 or go directly to their website at seniorcareauthority.com. So I wanted to, first of all, just thank everybody for all their support. We're being listed on so many new locations on the web, of course, on iTunes, iHeartRadio. We're now on Boomian, Stitcher, Spreaker. But, you could go, of course, directly to agingboomers.com. Of course, you could download the free app on your iPhone or Android phone. And, please tell friends, family about it, because this is an educational program to just talk about issues we know we're all, and I say all because I'm in that category as well, facing as boomers with ourselves, our parents, and other loved ones. So with that, I want to introduce our next guest, who I've known for quite some time. He's quite an entrepreneur himself, Steve Villa, who's the owner of Transitions with Care, which is a senior living placement agency. His business is in Contra Costa County and the Tri-Valley areas of Northern California. He's a graduate of Santa Clara University with a BS in psychology. He previously, before entering the senior care industry, was in commercial printing industry for quite a while, for 28 years, 16 of those years as a business owner. So Steve, just first of all, I want to welcome you to the Aging Boomers.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So you went from printing to senior services, more specifically the senior placement part of it, which we'll talk about with our listeners. But what made you get into this business from the printing business, which I think is quite different?
It is different, although the business model has some similarities. But being in the printing industry for as long as I was, it was an industry that was kind of dying, to put it lightly. And then so I'd been looking to get into something a little different. And as I come into contact with people in this business, everybody seems to have a story that's related to family members, and I'm no different. My wife's grandmother and grandfather at the time had decided that they really could no longer live at home safely by themselves, and so they kind of went on a voyage to look for first independent living that had some assistance. And my wife and her mom actually were instrumental in helping them find a place, but they didn't have the service of a placement agent to really give them a range of what's out there and kind of assist them. And we didn't even know that type of business existed. So in talking with more people over time, I found out that there was an industry of senior placement to help families find different living situations for their loved ones. And I thought, wow, this is definitely a growing industry with the baby boomers coming to that time of their lives. And really thought it was something that I could do from, do in the area that I grew up and currently live in now, and just thought I could be a good service to my community.
Well, I know you are, and it's interesting. You have a background. I mean, when you were at Santa Clara University, you had a BS in psychology. I gotta believe. Hopefully, you didn't throw away any of those textbooks, because I gotta believe you use a lot of that when you're dealing with families who are in difficult situations. I gotta think you're using a lot of probably what you learned back then in these situations, wouldn't you say?
Very true, very true. And actually, I had some classes that were specifically on the aged, and learned a lot about elderly at that time. And then just from my own experiences with my family, grandparents, great-grandparents, just seeing the things that they've gone through. Times have changed, rules have changed, insurances and everything. But definitely all that experience has come into play.
Yeah. So this is a real niche in the senior services business, or in senior care. So help our listeners understand what exactly is senior placement.
Well, first of all, it's a free service. And what we do is that we help families that have a loved one that realizes that they can no longer safely live at home, or they, maybe their house is too much for them and they want to move to something smaller but still live independently. So we can help them find the right living situation, whether it's independent living, assisted living, memory care situation, or small residential care home. And what we first do is meet with the family, identify what the needs would be, find out, where they would like to be, find out what the budget is, and then we will kind of break everything down and just try and isolate the best places for them to do their search, instead of them scrambling, all over the area or looking in different directories and driving by places. We've already gone out and evaluated these different types of living situations, and so we're going to try and match up their needs with what these living accommodations can best provide for them.
Right. So you mentioned it's a free service, so it's free. It's no cost to the family. So I'm assuming you make your money somehow. And how does that work?
That's correct. Well, yes, the family does not compensate me in any way. What we get paid from the assisted living community, independent living community, wherever they decide to go is how we get.
Okay, so a commission. So kind of like in a sense, like the buyer's agent for real estate, or a insurance agent, kind of works similar model.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Correct.
That's wonderful. It's a great service. It's certainly a great service for the family.
Sure.
So, with the internet, I know this, as you know, I'm very much involved in this business, but I think you could help in explaining to our listeners, people that go online and do a search. They've got a situation with mom or dad, and they don't know what to do, and they need to find maybe a place for them. They can't be at home anymore, and they go online and do a search, and they get on websites that, kind of like the almost like a travel site, and they shoot back and they say, here are some places you could look at. Okay, why not just do that?
Well, many people do, but the way that we approach things and just really try and help the family out is to really be hands-on and specifically find out all the needs that they have, so that they're not wasting time, and then we will take them to specific places that we think will match up. Mm-hmm. The other services are mainly their referral services. They may talk with the family, get some ideas, and then they're just going to email them a few addresses of places to go and find out on their own. So this way I can be with them, I can answer questions as we go, and hopefully I can save time for them, because not every situation is the same. Not everybody has the same amount of time to go out and research these places. In fact, some people have, very little time, maybe a day, to get their loved one placed in the right type of care facility.
Yeah, so it's not a commodity. I mean, I kind of almost look at, even though, as you know, I come from the travel industry originally, and I might have my hotel friends disagree with me, but, I look at most hotels as a commodity. All right. I mean, you could go online and book, and you're familiar with a lot of the names, and you're shopping for price in many cases, and location and all of that. Here, you're dealing with people's lives, right? So for someone to try to do it themselves and not have any experience with this, and most people don't, right? I mean, most people that are confronted with this, it's the first time they're dealing with it in most cases. So, and then what other types of services can you help them with? So let's say you're helping them with placing their mom or dad, but then they got to move them, then they might have questions relative to other services or ways to get funding for this. I mean, so what are the other types of services that you help with?
Well, funding is probably one of the major issues, because all of these living accommodations, the independent, the assisted, the memory care, they're non-medical. And if it's non-medical, then your Medicare and Medi-Cal insurances are not going to pay for it. So it's all private pay, and a lot of people don't have the funds, to pay for this monthly. So there are some different possibilities of trying to get some money through. There's a Veterans Aid and Attendance benefit. There are some conversions of life insurance policies that are out there. So there's some different avenues. So we talk about that and see if we can help them in any way, get the funding, put together the funding that will take care of their loved one.
Right. So have you seen, let's say in your area where you are, since you set up, I think you set up a couple of years back, have you seen growth of more businesses setting up like this?
In the placement business?
Yeah, in the placement business, yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It's becoming a little more popular. Like I said, I didn't know about it when my wife was actually helping search for her grandmother. When I started, it seemed like, there were a couple people that I've heard of that have been in the business for 10 years or so, but, I thought it was relatively a new business. And since I've been in it, I've seen, more and more people coming into it. So definitely there's competition out there, and which is good because the industry is growing. There are more and more people in need of it. So I think there's plenty to go around for everybody, and the main thing is that these families get somebody involved to help them with the process. Right,
and the fact that there's really, usually money is a big issue in these situations because it could get expensive. So the fact that you're not charging them anything more for your service, that's great. It makes it a lot easier for families as well. So
right, and in many cases, we'll just talk with them. They may not be ready to go through this
right.
process. At least we're kind of getting the ball rolling just to let them know what's out there.
So what do you do if that's the case? Let's say you talk to a family and they're thinking, they may want to move mom or dad into some sort of assisted living, but they decide, they're going to keep mom at home for a while, but maybe bring in some help. Is that something you can do or you can help with?
Yes, I've got a number of in-home care companies that I work with and I will refer to, and they will do the same for me as someone that they've been caring for, feels like they can no longer be at home. Then those in-home care companies will refer the family to talk with me about going to the next step. Yeah. So definitely there are some other areas that we can talk about, and if it's not placement specifically what they need, then I can put them in touch with other elder care professionals.
So you're a resource for them as well.
Definitely.
That's great. So I think maybe if you don't mind, let's maybe bring up one or two examples of situations. Obviously, we're not going to mention any names, but kind of situations that occurred and kind of the services that you provided to help families. Can we talk about them just to give our listeners kind of an idea of what we're talking about if they have never been confronted with the situation before?
Sure. The funny thing, when I meet with families, a lot of them will say, "Oh, you must have heard this 100 times already," and I kind of explain to them that every placement that I have done, every family that I've helped, their situation is unique, and
right.
So I'm continually learning because I'm always coming up against these new situations, and but I do have the resources to help them. And there's a range in timing of everything too. Where I'll give you an example. One Saturday morning, I got a phone call from a gentleman whose mother-in-law was being discharged from the hospital Sunday morning, and she could not go home. She actually was going to be in hospice care and needed to go to not a skilled nursing facility, but a residential care facility. And so he got in touch with me Saturday morning. I got on the phone, talked with some people, found out who had openings in his area, and then we went out, toured a few of the homes, and by 3 o'clock that afternoon, we were all set. And then Sunday morning, when his mother-in-law was discharged, he brought her over to the care home, and she was good to go.
Yeah,
and then you have the other extreme where I've met with families who, they're not quite ready, but they want to find out what's out there. And so we'll go out and tour different facilities, large assisted living communities, if that's something that they're looking for, just to downsize from their house and get into an area where they can get some assistance, or the small care homes. But, they're kind of taking an approach of just kind of researching things. And so a placement there may not happen for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months until they're absolutely ready, but they're doing stuff beforehand just in case an emergency does come up.
Which is a good thing.
There's been placements, from one day to, months out.
Right. But it's probably good for people to plan. You don't mind assisting people who aren't ready yet, right? Because they're planning, and that makes it actually the whole process better. You have a little more time to educate them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do when I talk with people that are just asking me what I do, and then they kind of give me a little situation. I just always offer them, a chance. Hey, let's just go out and take a look, and just so you can see what's out there for the future. Just when, so when your mom or dad, when they are ready to make a move, you kind of understand what the whole industry is like, and it'll just make things a lot easier.
Yeah. So just to clarify, we're not necessarily really talking nursing homes here, right? I mean, nursing is more of a medical model. So, and I know you're talking, you're in California, but but I, knowing the business as I do, I know there's a lot of similarities as it relates to what we call assisted living throughout the country. So kind of explain assisted living versus nursing and the differentiation, so people understand.
Okay. Well, assisted living is just that. Your loved one doesn't need medical care, but needs attention, help with their activities of daily living. They may need help getting in and out of the shower, or help getting dressed, or help, eating, not necessarily being fed, but their meals prepared, cut up properly, and just little things that they do on a daily basis, but it doesn't require any type of nurse to actually provide this care. So you have your large assisted living communities where many of the residents are pretty independent and can handle many of the activities of daily living, but there are some that they need help with. So they will have caregivers on staff there that can to go to their rooms and help them if they need a shower or help them get dressed in the morning. But yet then they go down to a dining area and it's a restaurant style. The food's incredible, and they have their 3 meals a day that are provided for them, and they have snacks, and there's activities going on. So it's like a cruise ship on land. There's activities all the time, but yet there are caregivers present if you need help. In the smaller residential care homes, these are homes that are usually licensed for 6 residents. They're just homes in your neighborhood that have gone through licensing by the state to be able to care for, up to 6 residents. And then they will have caregivers that actually live in the home and are there 24 hours a day. And so it may be where they may require a little bit more care and assistance with their activities of daily living. But it's just a smaller environment, and they're watched after very closely by the caregivers that live there.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but the reality is that I know in the business you're dealing quite often with loved ones who've been diagnosed with some form of dementia, like Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. And a lot of people think that individual, if that's really their main issue, needs to be in nursing. And that's not the case, correct?
That's correct. Because the memory care issues, Alzheimer's, dementia, typically don't require any medical attention. There may be some medications that they take, but they just need someone to look after them and care for them throughout the day to make sure that they
supervision.
are taking medication and that they are eating and that they're safe.
Right.
So there are memory care communities where everybody there has some type of memory issue, and then there are the small residential care homes also can handle the dementia and Alzheimer's residents as well, and it's mainly just providing that care that they need on a daily basis and making sure that they're healthy and safe and that they're eating and just have those daily activities taken care of for them.
That's great. It's not, and it's a lot of people I don't think realize that this hasn't been going on too long. Licensed assisted living started in the 90s, so it's still relatively new, and it's a great option for people. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
So we only have a couple minutes left, but maybe you could just we want to certainly let people know how they could get a hold of you, but can you just maybe in 30 seconds, maybe some words of wisdom from Steve Villa on for our listeners? Any thoughts you have as people run into this type of situation?
Absolutely. As I mentioned a little earlier, the situation of the families that are kind of getting a head start, just looking in the future and realizing that someday this may come up for them. So they're going out and looking at what's around them, what's out there, community-wise, and the care homes, just so they can understand better when this does happen. And I talk with families and just kind of make a point to them to say, don't wait until there's a crisis to react, because then, you may not be making the best decision, and it's, just under the gun, and you would rather that not be the case. So if you have time, sit down, talk with your loved ones just about, what they would want, and, try and plan it out the best you can. We can't always predict the future, but if you're educated about what's out there, it'll just make things go a little smoother.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Steve. So how would people get a hold of you? How would they do that?
I have a website that is transitionswithcare.com, and then my email is steve@transitionswithcare.com, or you can call me. It's area code 925-786-0372.
So I know we have listeners throughout the country. So if they have a particular need in their area, and you're not, you're mainly in the East Bay and the San Francisco Bay Area, but could they call you? Do you have? Can you refer them out to others?
Yes, I am part of the Senior Care Authority Network. So if they want to call and just have questions about this situation, feel free. But if it's not in my area, I can definitely refer you and set you up with an advisor in your area.
Great. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. You're doing a great service for so many people, and keep up the good work. And thank you. Thanks for joining us on the Aging Boomers.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So thank you all again. Thanks for all your support. Please let your family members, friends know about the show. There's a lot of good information that we share twice a week, each Monday and Friday. So thanks for joining us. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you all soon.